Hello, I'm Ryan Zink, and this is Creative Intuitive Solutions, where I teach you how to use your imagination, your clairvoyance, along with your creativity to find solutions and create change. If you're finding this video out into the new year, out into 2020, I created this on December 24th, 2019. Actually, it's December 25th at 2019 at 1:10 a.m. So I want to talk tonight about DNA and what I know to be true about DNA. And when you come into life, before you come into life, you choose the best family for you at the time as a spirit to incarnate with, and the kind of DNA that you want to incarnate with. And there are a lot of options with DNA. And I've noticed that within my DNA, I look Caucasian, but I actually have a lot of Mediterranean features, and more of my bloodline is that. But I have blue eyes and I have light skin. But my insides are more kind of Mediterranean in some of my features. So when you choose your blood type as a spirit and you start creating your DNA, there are things that get set for you, that you set for yourself. So there are many different types of cultures and ethnicity, but all DNA contains the information of all ethnicities and all cultures. So a black person can have information of Caucasian in their DNA, though when you send in for those types of results, the DNA tests, they're not going to show that because that information is really, really embedded in the DNA, and that's because it's not your primary choice when you incarnate. So if you're black or African American, that's your primary DNA. So the Caucasian DNA or the information may be the fifth line down that you chose. So it would go like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So maybe you're African American or black, but then you've got some Indian. So that would be like your second choice. And then maybe you've got some Asian. Okay? So those would be like your three primary kind of choices. And the further the list, the weaker the DNA for you. And that's kind of basic knowledge. But further down the list, you may have some Caucasian, but that wouldn't necessarily show up on a DNA test. So that's one fact kind of about DNA that people kind of generally know. We know that we are mixed with different nationalities and races and things. But what I'm here to share with you is that all DNA contains all DNA. No matter if you're black, white, Mexican, or Hispanic, or however you want to call yourself, or whatever the correct term is, whatever you are, it's all in the DNA. So, also, what's interesting about DNA is that all of your preferences for like flowers and animals, those are chosen in your DNA too, and you choose them when you incarnate. And when you are working with your DNA as a spirit before you incarnate, you see all the choices that are available for you in that particular family that you're about to incarnate with. But all the choices are available in all DNA. So you may really like black labs. So that would be your first choice of animal. And you may really like golden retrievers. So that would be your second. So you might say, oh, I really love black labs, but I would be okay with a golden retriever. So all of your preferences are kind of set that way with what you like the most, and then it kind of weakens to what the opposite of that would be. So that's all set in your DNA. You also have all of the information of anyone that's ever incarnated into your specific DNA too. So that's in your DNA too, but it's not as active. It's just like the information is embedded in the DNA for you to use to kind of compare as you're living your life. So the same is true for flowers, foods, tastes. So when you have a friend or you have a family member, all of your preferences kind of match up to the people that have similar preferences. But say you really like black labs and your friend likes golden retrievers for their first option. So you two would be like a match as friends because you have that in common. But yours is the second and theirs is the first. So that's kind of how that works. Also with the DNA, believe it or not, any alien species that is out in the universe, you also have all of that information in your DNA too. So we're human and that is our primary, so that's the primary DNA. But any other being that is out in the universe, you also have access to that information through your DNA too. And also, however you set it for when you incarnate, it's kind of like computer access, but I don't like looking at the body as a computer, though people will say it is a huge processing unit. I believe we're more than a computer. But in computer terms, you can grant somebody access to your DNA, say like a friend or your family member, so that they can use your information too from within your DNA to continue on with their life and their purpose. So there's all these things that go on with the DNA that people are not always conscious of. So another thing that goes on with the DNA is the type of light beings or really evolved beings. And these I wouldn't consider like an alien species. I would consider this like at the level of what God is, or even above God, like above Creator. Like the really, really kind of evolved being. You also have access to that information too, but sometimes that is not an option unless you activate that within yourself. So a lot of that type of connection has been deactivated within the human DNA, but it is available, but you kind of have to activate it, and you can do that through meditation or just with the intention to connect with those really kind of evolved beings. And these would not be like other extraterrestrials or I wouldn't even consider it like an evolved group consciousness. This is something beyond that. So you can connect with that too, but you kind of have to activate your DNA for that. The DNA also carries the information of all the planets, all of the stars. So when you hear those terms, everything is from within, and the universe is within inside you. That is true to some extent, but really what it's saying is that the information is within your DNA, and you can access it at any time. And with your intention and your thought, you can kind of change your DNA and set it up more how you want, because maybe you came into a body and you had a certain intention and a certain set of preferences, but then as you were living your life, that started to change, and you may need to make some changes to what your preferences are. So, for example, I never ate salad or onions until I was 18. I couldn't stand them. They were my least favorite things. If somebody put salad on my plate, I would get sick in my stomach. But when I turned about the age 18, I was out with a friend for dinner, and I said, "Hey, let me try a bite of your salad." And I'd had salad before, and I never liked it. It always made me gag. But at that point, something changed within inside of me, one of my preferences in my DNA, and I began to love salad. And it wasn't that I was young and I didn't like vegetables. There was just something about salad that just made me sick. So these are all preferences and things within our DNA and things that we set for ourselves. But there is a lot of information in the DNA and a lot that it can do. And that's another way how we're able to communicate to people without words, and how we're able to communicate with animals. And even if we pray, we're sending messages and codes throughout our DNA to whatever we're praying to. So that's how all that works. That's how we're all really interconnected. Yes, we're all one. Yes, we all have blood, we breathe air, but really it's a network of information that is within us with specific preferences that we set when we're incarnating into a body. And then it's also about activations once we're in the body. And it's just kind of like, you can look at it like, somebody at a company. Maybe one employee only has access to the first floor, but somebody more advanced or more important in the company has access to the top floor. And that's kind of how DNA can work too. So people can feel really stuck if their DNA isn't activated, and if they're unconscious, and if they're unaware, because the more conscious you are and the more aware you are, the more activated your DNA becomes, and the more access you have to information and to kind of life and how to create and possibilities, potentials, probabilities. That is all within the DNA. So have a great day. If you're seeing this out into the future, Happy New Year. Like and subscribe. Or find me on Facebook, Creative Intuitive Solutions. Or email me, ryan.c.zink8@gmail.com. Have a great night and a great new year.